welcome, Sandy and Josie. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm super thrilled that we're having this conversation, and we've kind of already started getting into it a little bit, which I had to hit record because I was like, y'all are saying too many good things that I want to be able to hear them and, not have to cue card these after you guys said them. But thank you both so much for joining. I'm excited to have you here.
Yeah,
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. It feels a little like fate, us running into that event a couple weeks ago because it was such an awesome event hosted by Indie Hub, and it was about welcoming new people to the city, and there was so much community there. I saw a ton of people that it seems like we all kind of know from different circles, from the fellowship, from 1828, and just being involved in the community, which I know both of you are. But yeah, I'm feeling excited, and we're going to be talking about the ways we are all making history during Women's History Month, in our circles and beyond, and a little bit of what's to come. So, do you guys want to do brief intros, or do you want to jump into it? What are you feeling?
We can
Um,
intro.
yeah, we can do a little intro.
Okay.
Sandy, want to go first?
Like foundational. I'm big on foundation. Yeah, so my name is Sandy Sledge. I am originally from Belleville, Illinois. So very southern, almost near St. Louis. And I found my way to Indianapolis through track and field. So I went to Marian University, graduated from there, and then got accepted into Orr Fellowship. And I've been here since. So that's a little bit about me.
That is awesome. I saw that you went to Marion, but I did not realize it was track and field. What was your event or events?
Pole vault at
Oh,
me.
that is amazing. I don't know what the algorithm thinks of me right now, but I feel like it's like sports, fashion, and cleaning. And I love watching the pole vaulting. It is so satisfying and something I would love to do in another life.
Same.
I appreciate your appreciation for it because sometimes I don't know why I did it myself.
Girl, that was so hard. I remember in high school, I would see I was gonna say girls, but I saw the guys training for it too. And like you have the parachute on the back for resistance to like,
Oh, yeah, those are some hard training days. That's a training tool, and I'm so thankful that I don't have to do any of those things ever again, though I highly, highly encourage people to do college sports.
I would love I would love to see you just running around the circle with like a parachute on your back.
Don't
I actually pay good money for that, Sandy, as well. I think, yeah.
say the number.
Oh,
No,
okay.
I'm gonna have to get some donors, some
Andy,
sponsors.
running around the circle, please donate below.
We're gonna start your GoFundMe page.
Yes. All right, Josie, we want to know you too. So,
Okay, awesome. So yeah, I guess I can start from now and go backwards because me and Sandy both met through the Orr Fellowship. So nice moment for us to be friends with Sandy because of that. And I had went to IU Bloomington, and I was part of the group scholars program. So getting a moment to shout out group scholars program, I'm gonna do it. And then I grew up here in Indy, so I'm back at home, and very excited to be here. Yeah.
that is awesome. I didn't realize both of you were from Indiana. Well, I guess Sandy, college-wise, Indiana. Whenever I think of Orr Fellows, I think of people coming in from like out of state. And I love that. I just sometimes I don't feel like it's pushed as much here, like in the immediate areas. So
Yeah.
I love that you guys were close and getting to kind of welcome all these other people who did come from different places and spaces. So I love that. What was that like? Because I feel like as we get comfortable where we are, and I know Bloomington is not Indianapolis by any means, but there's something about people coming to your city. I feel like Indianapolis just went through this with the NBA All-Stars weekend. Like the pride was strong. We were excited to host people. And there's something fun about if you grew up here getting to rediscover home again from a new lens, a new perspective. What was that
Yeah.
like?
That is so funny that you say that. I talked about that to Sandy all the time.
Yeah.
I think when I first got into Orr, I was like, oh wow, I've never heard of this place to work. I've never heard of these jobs and all these things. And that is actually one thing that kind of got me super involved into, or was I just felt like I've been here for a long time. I know organizations that have been here for a long time, and I don't recall being introduced to Orr. So that's kind of like definitely side talk, but why I got so involved in Orr, because I think that it is a great opportunity within the fellowship, and to just find so much opportunity here in Indianapolis, and just depending on where you're from, or what your parents did, you may not have been exposed to all these different places and companies. So I actually enjoy like rediscovering Indy. I tell Sandy all the time, I'm like, oh, I didn't know we had this event center. Like, I've never been to this side, or even like seeing this side of town. I'm always saying. So it's like finding new hidden gems. But I also will say, I don't know, I can't necessarily say that or expose me to all the new things about Indy. I think me being older too helped me like get more exposure, because now I have my own money, car, whatnot. I can kind of go around the city as I please. But yeah, I think a combination of just moving away, being in Bloomington, getting older, and then coming back, and then entering Indy through Orr definitely helped me rediscover the city, and I very much enjoy it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, I wish I could see 16-year-old Josie driving around Indianapolis. But I think I definitely share, not to a full extent, but to a little sense, the concept of, I went to Marion, and I think I was definitely in my college bubble. I mean, I went there, I was an athlete, I was in my own little world. We compete, school, go home, come back, and just back to it. So I knew about the circle, and I knew about Broad Ripple and a couple bars. That was my scope of Indianapolis. And so coming into Orr, I was like, oh, thank goodness. Like, I thought this was going to be boring to stay in Indy for 2 more years. And well, look here, it's like a bunch of stuff I had no clue about. And honestly, history, not being from here, I think I really appreciated learning about the city of Indianapolis and the rich history that it has. So I'm really proud to say that I think I'm pretty good at learning things around me and having an appreciation for where I am. So yeah, Indianapolis is a cool place.
It really is. And it's so hard when when we were getting ready to graduate on our end, people are like, Indy's boring. I'm out of here. Bye forever. And I was like, you haven't tried. And so I think there's something so special about like when you just look, because Indianapolis has become so rich with culture, with the arts, sports have always been here, but I think sports are kind of being shared in this new way, especially with Pacer Sport Entertainment, how they're bringing court, community, and culture all together in these new ways. It's been really cool to see more spaces of Indianapolis overlap with one another and come together in different ways. And I think it is so cool that you guys were able to see it from 2 different perspectives. Especially, I think, as we get older and our appreciation for different things will shift, and priorities will also be different. From where you can drive and what money you can spend and how you can spend it, to the bars, to like community centers and things like that. So I love that you guys were able to see it in just different lights. But you talked about being in the community and maybe seeing like a different side of this side of town and different things like that. And Josie, you talked about being on that scholar group, and you also serve on one of our mentoring boards in the city. Is that right?
Yes, so I serve on Starfish Initiative's board, and I'm the governance chair, so I lead those calls.
That's amazing. And Sandy, I know that you coach as well, and I feel like both of you are in these spaces of mentoring, coaching, and helping to develop young minds, presumably. And in those roles, and then both in your fellowship roles, because I'm going to get some of the terms wrong here, but I know you were coordinators, kind of leading your own peers. What has that leadership been like for you guys, as leading those of the same age to now helping form and impact and influence younger minds?
You want to take it, Josie?
I was going to let you take it.
Okay, I think I do. I think I might be. I think I have something for us. I think that forming a relationship and kind of leading a team of peers is one of the hardest things you can do, because peer relationships come down to respect. Ultimately, there's nothing you can tell me as if another 24-year-old's talking to me to say, oh, I absolutely have to do what you say. There's just no chance of it. And so I think having the opportunity to lead a team of peers, it's truly in your mindset thinking, okay, we are trying to find this common goal and letting the hierarchy die and say, what can we pull together as a team? And how can I take influence in gathering all this information and pushing it forward? As the leader, that's all you're doing is taking all that information and serving the people to push the mission forward. So I think that lesson is something that a lot of people don't realize until they're in manager positions a lot of the times, or working with peers older, like once they're older, like 30 plus. So seeing how to do that at 20, early 20s is amazing, a great opportunity. And as far as mentorship for the youth, that's just something that I'm sure that's been deeply rooted in Josie from the get-go too. But I don't know. It's just that's what's always been on my heart is how do I help somebody? And especially a child. I think any chance that you have to support and uplift a child makes for a special adult. So even like my little kids who give me the sassy looks and the attitude when I'm telling them to run, and maybe I pull those parachutes out. It's always worth it because it's important to me to never be upset with them because I understand where they're coming from, and I want them to know this is gonna suck. This is not fun sometimes, but I want you to know I'm never mad at you. I'm always here, and you can do all this and all that, but we're going to get it done, and I'm going to be a settled person in your life. So, yeah, that's just something critical to me when it comes to youth in particular.
Yeah. And I would definitely agree with everything Sandy said. And reason that I am super big on mentoring is because like I said earlier, I was a Starfish scholar myself. And so I had a mentor in high school, and then, through Starfish, I gained like 2 other mentors that have continued to be in part of my life and have shaped my career path. And I got this job, and I demanded that I needed a mentor too. So I've just seen the power of mentorship. And so when I give back to Starfish, I'm always just keeping in mind, like when I was in their shoes, like I always wanted to see someone like me. And I think like that's super important as I get older, is ensuring that like, yes, like I may not be able to, or may not be seen as someone who represents everybody in terms of like age, or like you don't understand me and all those things. And so I take advantage of my youth now, I guess, or and make sure that like people can see a 24-year-old working, and they can see someone who just got out of college, and they can relate to them just a bit more, because it can be very hard to see yourself when someone's talking to you and they're maybe like 20 years down their career and stuff. And so just trying to make sure that everyone can have representation that is relatable as well is super important and critical. And then on top of like peer-to-peer leading, I think what I'm learning, still learning this, it's like the snowball effect. I think in college, sometimes you're like, oh, you're going to lead this organization, and you have all these massive ideas, and then you learn time, and you learn your circle of control and all that. So I think in this phase, I'm kind of mastering that, like understanding things do take time, and it is okay. It does not mean there's not progress happening. It's just things do have to take time. And then I can only control so much. So like Sandy said, like we're all 24 or whatever. You can't fire me. I can't fire you. We're all doing this out the goodness of our heart. And I think when you kind of approach situations and teams like that, especially when you're volunteering, it's like none of us have to be here. So it comes down that respect, and then also like that mission. If you can get someone on a mission like, okay, we're all trying to achieve this one goal. Let's keep going, and we can work through anything. So like snowballing things, like just putting an idea out there. I won't be mad if you don't take it, but I'll just keep putting it out. Somebody eventually will, like just sowing those seeds. So yeah.
I love that. And we were talking about this a little bit at the beginning of our call about surrounding yourself by people who want to grow alongside you. And last year, I got to go to Pass the Torch for Women's International Day breakfast. And one of the speakers, this has stuck with me every day since, and it's almost been a year exactly. She said, "There's room in the garden for everyone to bloom." And I love that quote. And I think even in the way that both of you were like, "Do you want to take the question first?" Like, I can take it if you don't want to take it. And I love the space that you're creating. And what has it been like being in a space with other fellows, other peers who, like you said, you guys are all working towards this greater mission out of the goodness of your heart? I'd love to hear you both speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, I can take this one first, Sandy. I literally love Sandy, and I know this is not probably the space to say this. I don't know, but maybe it is a space to always say that you love Sandy, or just uplift another woman. So yeah, maybe this probably
That's
is the
always an
perfect
appropriate.
space. There's always that space. And like the moment I've met Sandy, it was just like, oh, you're Sandy. I've been looking for you, and we've just been bonding ever since and supporting each other. Um, and just constantly like being there to uplift each other, like hear extra additional resources. And so even if you like just finding one person that's going to always just push you to the next level and like hold each other accountable. Like, and I think when you're able to find someone that you really can have a genuine relationship with, and if it's, you're able to build like a deep relationship, the more the merrier. That's amazing. But within that deep relationship, you can learn how to hold someone accountable. It's like, I'm listening to you vent here. Here's what we can probably tweak next time. Um, Maybe don't say that, but I validate you. I understand that, and I probably would do the same thing. But since we're reflecting in this moment, maybe let's try to do it this way. And so I really love having somebody in the fellowship, and there's so many other more people in the fellowship that kind of can hold me accountable in those ways. But I know Sandy, like because we have such a close bond, it's like more constant, and I definitely am trying to hold myself accountable because I know Sandy's going to be like Josie.
Well, I love you, Josie. I love you to the moon and back. And I think it how we met is truly like the sweetest story. Basically, there were truly only 3 Black women who were recruited our year for Orr Fellowship, who made it all the way through, who accepted. And we knew the other fellow, she wasn't going to make it into town for the welcome part, like the welcome weekend. And so I actually went to an event by myself the night prior to meeting Josie. And I was so overwhelmed. I called my mom after and I was like, I've made a really big mistake. I am not supposed to be here. No one looks like me. I feel very uncomfortable. I need to pick up. I was so worked up. And so the next day I went to this event, and from the corner of my eye, I clocked Josie and I just ran. I'm like, "Are you Josie Pipkin?" And she's like, "Sandy Sledge." Oh my God. And we just had the best, like, when things just start to correlate, like you don't have the rest of the day just flows with ease. That was like from the moment me and Josie met, it was like butter, like truly, like all the overwhelmment just disappeared. So I'm always forever thankful for that moment. And as far as holding each other accountable, I think the more you know somebody and trust them, the more you share your like deepest like dreams and like interests. Like, I'm scared to say this out loud, but I want to be a lawyer, or I want to start a podcast, or things that you're like, oh, I don't want to share that yet. And seeing and caring for another person, it allows you to be so excited for their dreams. You have no other choice but to kind of check, like, girl, what's up with that? Are you reading your book? Are you studying?
Yes.
Are you taking a break?
Yes.
You know, it's not always about pushing the grind. It's also about taking that step back and acknowledging, are you okay? Do you need to take an adjustment step? Do we need to have a Sunday coffee session? So those things too, like it's not always about holding accountability towards the goals and checking off the boss babe checklist. It's real friendship and longevity of your happiness. And that's always important to me for someone who I care about. So
Sandy like actually shared this resource for Black History in one of the chats we're in, and it was about showing up authentically. And and the video was about not going to certain spaces and actually not being able to show up authentically. But Sandy, through this conversation, I think that's something that we are both able to do. So whenever you are able to show up as your authentic self in a space or with a one-on-one like relationship, a person, I think you definitely have to hold on to those relationships and those spaces and communities that you can just be your authentic self. You can be vulnerable. You can spitball your dreams and ambitions and all those things. So yeah.
I love that. I love acknowledging the people who make space for that for you and to grow, because I think there's a lot of, especially I'm still gonna lump myself in as a younger professional. I don't know when that cutoff is, but I'm gonna hang on to
you're
that.
always young.
Thank you, baby girl. Okay. Love that. But I think there's something about growing into who you are while also getting to be who you are as fully as you can be in those moments. And I know for me, like part of my journey has been like leaning into my cultural identity a lot more. It felt very separate before for whatever reason. And as I've gotten older, I've gotten to lean into that more. And I don't know, I throw in my Spanish a lot more now around the house. It doesn't always sound great, but it's a journey, and it's like part of where I'm at right now and where I'm going to be at some point. And I think having people that you're able to do that alongside, who are also checking in on you in different ways, because I know I have friends that when we go out places, they're like, "What's up?" Because that was not you. Like, do we need to not be around those people? Do we need to not be in those spaces anymore? Because they're like, that was not you, and you clearly did not feel like you had space to be who you are. And Sandy, to your point, there's something so, I don't know. They say that you don't grow unless you're uncomfortable, but there's also being so uncomfortable that you don't feel confident enough to grow or to take up space. And I love that you immediately, like, obviously addressed how you were feeling, but then you still went back because I'm guessing you knew Josie was going to be there and the other girl was going to show up eventually, or no, you didn't?
No, she look. One girl.
Sandy, no wait. When I went Saturday, Sandy didn't show up because there was 2 events. So like me and Sandy had both went into the spaces, like not seeing each other. And then the 3rd event, we finally clocked each other, and it was like I was feeling the same thing. Like I literally went home to my grandma. Was like, "Grandma, I met like Sandy." Because at first I was like, "Oh no, I don't know about this."
Yeah, no, it was definitely love at first sight. That's my girl. But yeah.
Okay. No, that's helpful to understand. And I think, Josie, too, I'm wondering if you might be able to speak to this. So, this was like your first experience in this new space of development of your career, really, after college. And now you serve on the DEI recruitment side of things. And what has it been like to have been through that experience into now with some of this programming? And Sandy, if you want to jump in on that too, because you are building these different experiences for other people. And there's highlighting, I mean, Black History Month, we're just getting out of, it's Women's History Month. And I know that's when I got more involved with the Orr Fellowship and just a few different spaces of DEI and what it can look like. And so now that you're kind of in this position of curating those experiences and bringing people in, how have some of your experiences impacted the steps that you are taking towards that?
Yeah, I would definitely say DI efforts or at least the things I've been able to do, has always been a collective. It's always, even if I may be spearheading it, it's because Josie felt this way, and then our other friend felt this way, and all these other people felt this way. So even if I spearhead, it's definitely like got motivation from hearing the feedback of others. But in my experience, I think it's getting people to realize that this is kind of hard, but like in professional spaces, I think when transitioning, I think there's a norm that everyone comes from spaces that do not look like them. I think that's like a misconception is like, oh, like you should have assimilated by now, or all these things. It's like, no, like I actually seen representation of myself in high school or when I went to college, I seen representation through the orgs that I've been a part of. And so going to the other spaces and just challenging, like, this does not have to be the norm. Despite any statistic you tell me or whatnot, like this does not have to be the norm. And always letting people know, like, we can actually change this. So like if we're in charge of recruiting the next class, if we're in charge of the programming, if we're in charge of the selecting who the panelists are, like we can choose, we can say we want different, especially if our peers are saying like, hey, I would prefer someone on that stage that looks like me. I prefer someone that has the same type of experience as me. Can we change that? And we do have that control. And so I think sometimes, like, when people think DI, they think it has to come from leadership. And like, don't get me wrong, it definitely should be pushed by leadership in any organization. But I also think that there is something that we can do at the bottom, like, well, maybe I don't want to say bottom, but there's
On the ground.
but like on the ground level, the grassroots, like we can do that. Like, and so, like I said, controlling your controllables, and there's in Orr at least, there's actually a lot of power that fellows have. And so I think the fellows have done a good job at like, oh no, like taking that feedback and then changing it and changing the script. So like this year we reduced the GPA qualification because it's like all these stats showing about like, is GPA really a true indicator of someone's like talent or whatnot? And it's not. So it's like, well, if we know that, then why not? Let's rethink this. So yeah, little stuff like that, and nothing ever happens overnight. But I'm so happy that like people said, yeah, like actually let's do this idea. We support Josie, or we support everybody else that wants that change, and the change happened. So yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. No, like, thank you, Josie, for always. I think your perspective is one of the most unique in the fellowship because it's so confident and it's so well thought out every single time you bring something to the table. I'm personally not someone who does well with conflict or people like going like, I don't like that idea. And I'm like, okay, well, fine, we won't do it. She really pushes people outside of the box, and then it kind of brings like this village out of people. They're like, actually, yeah, I do want that. Yeah.
Yeah. No, and I think the best part is someone going like clocking it for you. And this is what I always tell people, like, just because I started the conversation does not mean I have to carry it all the way through. And I think the best part is like seeing other people be like, wait a minute, maybe we shouldn't do that because what about this person, and that how does that impact this person or that person? It's like, oh yeah, great. Like I don't have to be the only one saying anything. So that's also been good.
Yeah. Thank you for making that comfortable to do. So thanks.
I love that. And I love just the support. You guys are giving me all the warm fuzzies out here. I freaking love the way you build each other up. And I know both of you have been in the tech space and you are both young Black women, and women in tech plainly has been on the rise, but there's been, I mean, it's been a male dominated field for a really long time. And was that something as you were in college, as you were in high school, whenever you were starting to think about your career, was that like the environment, the hurdles, or you said assimilating earlier, and I love that you compared it to that in that way of being in spaces. But as you were thinking about your career path, were there, I don't want to say blinders, or like, was there a filter of some sort over it that you were mentally preparing for? And what was that like for both of you? I saw your eyes go somewhere, Josie.
I was very upset. I just want everyone I was very upset when I entered the professional space. I was lied to. I was bamboozled. You guys told me I needed to. I spent my senior year building out my wardrobe for this like professional attire that does not exist in tech. So like, I think that's like one of the funniest like but small things that I was like, oh, I don't have to dress up. And even dealing with that concept of like, can I go casual? Like, I'm a Black woman. Like, can I go casual? Like, I feel like the standard's always higher. It's like learning, just learning the professional environment, and each industry has their own level of professionalism. And then how does that align with like what I was taught is professionalism, like as just a Black woman in general. And so I think that's been something I've been dealing with, and not, and like it's like a personal thing. I think Sandy and I talk about like this Black excellence, and the reality is like everyone isn't striving for excellence, and like, and not in a bad way, like that.
Right.
Those people are like bad or unmotivated or anything. It's like no, like striving for excellence all the time is very like it's a lot of pressure on somebody, and it can be exhausting. It can turn into like perfectionism, which essentially what striving for excellence all the time can morph into. So I think like, oh, okay, I don't have to. Yes, I should do it right, but the first time, yeah, I'm probably gonna fail, and that's okay. I don't need to like make it an hours long episode because I've messed up on one tiny detail. So I think that's been something I'm overcoming entering like my second year into professionalism, I guess, or my career.
Mm-hmm.
I would say when I went to Marian University, I never had a business class with a Black woman. Like I never had anyone in my class that was Black and female presenting, female identifying. There were Black males and there were all males, but very few women. And I had no women of color originally while I was a business student. That has since changed a lot. And I definitely just would love to shout out Marion's Women in Business because I think that they're really changing the tide on diversity in the business space there. So going in, I just really was ready for the status quo of accepting that that's what your work situation is. And I think now, because of Josie's influence, but a lot of influence, I think as we get older, like you said, you step into what is valuable to you more and more. And like you, I think I'm stepping into my Blackness more and more as I get older, and my comfort and my confidence in that. And so there's this duality of I have been assimilated. I grew up in a suburban white neighborhood. I did gymnastics growing up, like I have been around white people and have made myself adjust. And so it is really unlearning those things and getting comfortable being myself and being okay with, making others, if that makes others uncomfortable, then maybe that's just not the space for me. So I think that is the space I'm going into right now, is challenging the Black excellence, the assimilation, and truly finding out how do I come in as a professional Sandy? Like who is she? Like just leaning away from that people pleasing mentality.
Yeah, I love that. And I think both of you brought up such good points about, I mean, for one, business attire, dressing in the workplace. I feel like that is a soapbox I could be on.
Yeah.
Thinking of, I talk about this story all the time, but I remember I was in business school, and my roommate and I had just gone to Ann Taylor, Loft, whatever, for the outlet sale. I bought these really cute skirts that were colorful because I like color, and they had patterns, and I got these flowy tops or whatever and different things like that. And we came back to school when we were talking about presentations and all these different things. And she was like, you need to wear, like, if you are a woman, then if you want to be taken seriously, you'll wear like a pantsuit because that's what the men will wear. And they already have a leg up on you. So you should not give them a reason to see you as a sex object or any of these different things. And I'm like, my pencil skirt is not going, like, that is their problem. Like, and I think there's something to be said about being able to show up feeling like your full self and the confidence that comes from that. Because, I mean, I don't know, we've all seen those red carpet appearances and the dress is wearing the girl or whatever it is. And when you have to show up and then like speak to something, specifically yourself in an interview or anything like that, if you don't feel like you can be you, then you've already kind of taken out one of your assets, if you will, in your toolbox to present yourself and to advocate for yourself in those different spaces. And I love that you both touched on Black excellence. And I am not Black, obviously, but I am of Asian descent, and we've like had to talk a lot about like the model minority and things that come with that, and the expectation that you will fall in line or whatever it is. That you can be perceived as, and how tiring it can be to try to fit into these different molds, even if I know the narrative that I've always heard of Black excellence is like high achieving and something to aspire to, but that's exhausting. And that, like you said, it puts so much pressure on yourself when what you are doing is already excellent without
Yes.
having to feel amplified in these ways that you're being told you have to in order to reach whatever it is they want you to reach.
Yeah.
And I love that you both are building professionalism to what you want it to be and to how you can show up, because I was talking about this with another interviewee and we were saying that you can be professional and still be you 100%. It doesn't mean you're wearing your swimsuit top into the office, but you're still able to express who you are through your hair, your makeup, your clothes, whatever it is, in a way that adds to the experience of those around you and to the relationships that you're building in the workspace, and ultimately to like your work product and your creativity. So kudos to both of you for figuring that out, and it sounds like inspiring those around you who see you and have the honor to spend time with you so that they can bring that to their own lives as well.
Thanks.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I didn't think I would be blushing this much on this call. You guys are so sweet.
Well, there's just a lot of good things to say about both of you.
A lot of great things to say about you.
Baby hearts, you know baby hearts?
You know baby hearts?
I do, yeah. You know.
Yeah, we love baby hearts.
We love baby hearts.
I'm a big fan. If you are listening to the podcast, you will have to catch this on YouTube so you can see all of the hearts that we are throwing on this call. But before we wrap up this first interview with the two of you, I would love to know how you both individually feel like you are making history.
That is a very, very great question.
That's a big question.
I love the amount of calling that comes whenever I ask people about themselves and how you are making incredible things happen. But take your time.
Yeah, it's funny because, you know, we've talked about all these things, and I could see someone saying like, Sandy and I are doing great things. I mean, Sandy, you're doing great things. And this question though, how are you making history? Just, it's like a big one.
Mm-hmm.
Like, remove the humble Band-Aid, Josie. Like, go ahead.
I know, right?
Flaunt your work.
That's what I'm saying.
That's what you're asking me to do here.
I'll help you stall a little bit, because I think that these questions are very important, because we talk a lot about the people around us. And so when I interview female founders, I always ask, what is something you do that you are inspired by? Because we talk a lot about the way that other women inspire us, or movies or literature, whatever it is. But the fact of the matter is, all of us, you two very much included and emphasized right now, are doing things in spaces that no one else is able to do the same way you're doing them. And you both have impact that cannot be replicated. We can teach others how to do things, but no one will ever do it like us. And it's a hard question, because more often than not, people don't want to brag about themselves or come across overly confident or big-headed or anything like that. But I think it's super critical that we acknowledge the impact that we all have, because that is a big thing. It is a big question. And I think when we realize the impact and influence that we each have, then we can move forward more intentionally.
That is all very true. I know, right? Making history. Yeah, you got us here.
Okay, all right. Okay. Didn't you? It was warned. We were warned. We were warned. This is the funny part. Yeah, I think. Okay, I'm gonna say my answer, but I am gonna start with probably going against what you're telling me to do, which is to say this and not feel like I'm being big-headed or overly confident or whatnot. So I'm gonna start with saying that I'm not being those things, but these are the facts. But these are the facts. Yeah, I feel like I'm making history. Yeah, because every day in the past is history, so I guess I am. But I think for me right now, what I am trying and what I am creating is it's just space for just making space for people more so like being a lot of first gen. I think that's what it is. Like I'm very proud of myself, and I hope in 5 years I can feel like I have a better answer. But I think my answer today is an answer that I'm very proud of. But I just think being a first generation in so many aspects, um, and finding people who can like just finding ways for myself, like being a resource to myself, like relying on myself, being confident in my own journey. And so I think I'm making history in that, like being that first gen and passing anything I know down. So like anytime I can spread some thoughts to my little sister, like you go, we're gonna travel the world together, you're gonna lead some revolution or something, I don't know. But I think in that way, in that regard, I'm making history. So yeah, I would say just being the first to do a lot of things that I'm doing in my immediate family or so. So yeah.
I love that. And you really are, whether it's history for your sister or making history for you. Because like you said at the beginning, and I feel like you said it a little hauntily, but yes, every day forward there's a past and that is history. And I think you are building this beautiful story that a lot of people are going to want to hear. So I too am proud of you, Josie.
Very, very, very proud. And thank you for going first.
Because that was a hard one, Sandy, and I bought you some time.
I know, right?
I'm ready.
I think I would say I am making history by being comfortable being Black in non-Black spaces. So, like I said earlier, I grew up doing gymnastics, which, Simone Biles is the face of gymnastics now. But when I was growing up, there was no Gabby, there was no Simone, but there were Black gymnasts. Other people just didn't know about them. I knew it because it was just such a minor, small group of people that were. I rock climb at North Mass Boulder. And I think something I am making history with is being okay to be Black in in your space. Just because you don't see anyone else there that looks like you doing it doesn't mean you have to assimilate to enjoy yourself. Like if you want to be the Black wellness girly, you be the Black wellness girly. If you want to do the holistics and the crafts that may not have space that normally you see someone like yourself at, start creating it. And I think some people might say that that's what I'm doing by becoming more of myself in those spaces. So yeah, I think I'm proud of that.
You are proud of that, if we can amend that sentence.
I'm proud of that. I'm very proud of that.
Yes,
I love that for you, Sandy.
Me too.
Sandy, I think what you kind of touched on was just like the freedom to be yourself. I think that as we talk about freedom, as we keep talking about liberation and stuff, it's just liberating just to be who I want to be. Like, I don't have to be the stereotype of this, or I don't have to be that, or whatever. Like, I can just pick and choose what facets of me I want to like change and adapt or whatnot. Like maybe I do want to do that thing that people say is stereotypical. I don't care. That's what I want to do. I have the freedom to do that. And so I think that is really beautiful that you said that, Sandy. So thank you.
Yeah, glad to say it. Took me a sec.
Worth waiting for. No, this was awesome. Thank you both so much. I appreciate it. If our listeners want to keep up with you, what's the best way to do that?
I sound so corny. LinkedIn.
No, I just deleted.
LinkedIn is my favorite. Are you kidding?
Literally
I
deleted.
just deleted Instagram. I've been deleting Instagram and reading books, and oh my goodness, yes, LinkedIn.
Okay.
And if you don't have a LinkedIn, I mean, LinkedIn. You can look at LinkedIn. Yeah, I was not gonna put my whole email out here, but if you don't want to stay on LinkedIn, we can get another form of communication. But the first point of contact is LinkedIn.
Yeah, same here. My LinkedIn, my name's super easy to remember. Sandy like SpongeBob and Sledge like the hammer.
Perfect. I love it. And we will link those below as well. So if you're interested in keeping up with Sandy and Josie and meeting them, learning more about them and all that they are involved in, you can do so through LinkedIn as a primary source. And thank you both so much again for joining, and thank you for making history.
Thanks.
Thank you for having us.